Would you also agree that calling somebody racist is a serious accusation? How come multiple whistleblowers have said that your administration told them not to say anything about widespread fraud across multiple agencies because doing so would be considered racist or Islamophobic? I think that had something to do with the prevalence of fraud in your administration.
I can't speak to it, but
Are you going to take responsibility for this? Got it. And when did you become governor?
In January of 2019.
In 2019. Okay, so using 2018 as a baseline, do you know what that program paid in Medicaid claims?
I do not, Congressman.
It's about $671,000. Do you know what that program paid in Medicaid claims in 2024?
I don't have the number in front of me.
$342 million. That's about a 500x increase over 6 years. Was there 500 times the number of autism patients in that time period?
I couldn't speak specifically to it, but I will say, Congressman, that
doesn't sound reasonable, right? You don't think there was a 500x increase in the number of autism patients in 6 years, right?
Correct, and that's why we ordered on-site visits starting back in 2024.
So we agree that doesn't sound reasonable. Would you also agree that a single taxpayer dollar wasted on fraud is a dollar too much to tolerate?
Yes.
Yep, and would you agree that as governor, ultimately you're responsible if tax dollars are defrauded?
Yes, I would agree.
Yep. Would you also agree that calling somebody racist is a serious accusation?
If they are racist, I think it's probably
I'm asking
accurate.
you, is that a serious accusation to make about somebody?
I think it's just an observation of reality.
All right, well, let's go there. Is it racist for a government official to identify fraud?
No.
No. Is it Islamophobic?
To identify fraud?
To identify fraud?
No, I don't believe it would be.
How come multiple whistleblowers have said that your administration told them not to say anything about widespread fraud across multiple agencies because doing so would be considered racist or Islamophobic?
I can't speak to it because it's not anything I would say.
Well, that's what your administration has said and has told whistleblowers, and as you just testified, the buck stops with you. That's what you stated in your statement whenever you announced you weren't running again. Are you familiar with Faye Bernstein?
Yes, I'm familiar with the name.
She's a Democrat, isn't she?
I wouldn't know that.
She stated publicly that she's a Democrat. She's only voted Democrat in her life. She's also stated publicly that she was retaliated against and called racist, and that her work responsibilities were diminished whenever she was highlighting fraud within your administration. Are you familiar with that?
I couldn't speak to specific allegations.
Why do you think she would say that?
I can't speak for what she
You have no idea?
I do not.
You would agree that the tone in your administration comes from you ultimately, right?
The tone is that.
The tone of how you might deal with whistleblowers.
Right, and we protect them.
Wait, it doesn't sound like you're protecting them. We heard from Representative Kristen Robbins, quote, "We have dozens of credible whistleblower reports saying the exact same thing, that people were told not to say anything because they'd be called racist or Islamophobic or it would hurt the state." Do you think it's racist or Islamophobic to highlight and try to stop fraud?
It is not, and I certainly wouldn't
It's
know.
not, but that was the message your administration was sending to multiple whistleblowers.
I can't speak to that.
You can't speak to that. You know, you don't want to speak to that, I think.
I have over 40,000 employees,
retaliated
Congressman.
against?
Pardon me?
Do you think whistleblowers should be retaliated against?
Absolutely not. They have strong protections in Minnesota and lots of paths. And the paths go for the OLA.
That's not what we're hearing from whistleblowers. Faye Bernstein, who, again, has stated that she is a Democrat, she's only ever voted Democrat, says that she was subjected to, quote, a smear campaign for trying to make leadership aware of illegal contracting practices. Why do you think that happened?
I can't speak to that, Congressman, because we don't do it.
You just don't. You don't know anything.
I do know that we don't. We have strong whistleblower protections, and I can't speak.
That's not what the whistleblowers are saying. According to another report, quote, "There's just a continuous effort to stifle you, to shut you up, and it's impossible to overcome." Your administration's response to whistleblowers has also been described as, quote, "nearly unbearable retaliation." We've heard claims that, quote, they've been denied vacations, promotions, and that it's hurt people's careers to speak out against fraud. Do you think that had something to do with the prevalence of fraud in your administration?
I can't speak to it, but it doesn't happen.
Are you going to take responsibility for this?
I supervise 40,000 employees. State agencies have their own.
You supervise a lot of employees, and as you have said, the buck stops with you. And your administration has treated whistleblowers like absolute dirt, and that's a big reason why we've seen so much of our hard-earned tax dollars defrauded.
Look, Congressman, I told you we have strong protections. We have an Office of
This committee has
Legislative
spoken
Auditor.
to nearly 30 whistleblowers,
And they
most of
came
which
to
are
the-
current employees in your administration who have intimate knowledge of what's been going on, who have all stated that they've faced retaliation for calling out fraud.
I can't speak to them what they felt.
What you just watched wasn't the end of this story. In the months following this hearing, investigations into Minnesota's oversight of public funds continued, while lawmakers and state officials pursued additional reviews of fraud prevention and whistleblower protections. The hearing became part of a broader national debate over how state governments detect fraud, respond to employee concerns, and protect taxpayer dollars. Representative Brandon Gill's questioning focused on two related issues. First, he highlighted the dramatic increase in Medicaid payments under Minnesota's early intensive developmental and behavioral intervention program, asking Governor Tim Walz whether such an increase should have triggered greater scrutiny. Walz agreed that any misuse of taxpayer money is unacceptable and said his administration had increased oversight efforts, including on-site reviews. The second issue involved whistleblowers. Gill cited statements from individuals who claimed they were discouraged from reporting suspected fraud because raising those concerns could be viewed as racist or Islamophobic. He also referenced public allegations from former state employee Faye Bernstein and comments from state lawmakers who said multiple whistleblowers reported retaliation after raising concerns. Throughout the exchange, Walz said he could not speak to those individual allegations, but maintained that Minnesota has strong whistleblower protections and that retaliation is not the state's policy. It's important to understand what this hearing established and what it did not. Members of Congress questioned the governor about allegations made by whistleblowers and the state's response to suspected fraud. The hearing itself did not determine that Governor Walz personally directed retaliation or that the allegations had been legally proven. Instead, lawmakers used the hearing to examine whether existing oversight systems were working as intended and whether whistleblowers felt protected when reporting concerns. Following the hearing, legislative and investigative scrutiny continued. Minnesota officials continued reviewing fraud prevention measures across several public assistance programs, while state lawmakers debated proposals to strengthen oversight, improve internal reporting procedures, and enhance protections for employees who report suspected misconduct. At the same time, investigations into several high-profile fraud cases already underway continued through the courts and law enforcement agencies. The broader issue raised during this hearing extends beyond one administration or one state. Governments rely heavily on employees who are willing to report suspected misconduct. If employees believe they could face retaliation for raising concerns, lawmakers argue that fraud may be harder to detect and stop. On the other hand, government leaders maintain that allegations should be carefully investigated and supported by evidence before conclusions are reached. Ultimately, this hearing was about accountability. Representative Gill argued that state leadership bears responsibility for creating an environment where fraud is identified and addressed. Governor Walz responded that his administration supports whistleblower protections and has taken steps to strengthen oversight, while rejecting claims that retaliation was official policy. As investigations and legislative discussions continue, the questions raised in this hearing remain part of a broader conversation about transparency, government oversight, and protecting taxpayer resources.